it's a very large sacrifice moving up a social ladder. You've got to think about it like a plane. A plane uses most of its fuel taking off, right? Because it has to break through the gravity barrier and get to a point where it can cruise. Once it's cruising, it can turn left, it can turn right. The ease of movement is different. But getting to that is very hard. So you're going to burn a lot of fuel getting to that plane where you can turn left or right, that level, right, whatever, 40,000 feet.
I like this
right?
example.
So we've got to recognize that for a lot of people, they burn out or don't have the fuel to break that. So he lived in that scenario where he might not necessarily have been the dumbest guy in the room, but his family makeup and his situation didn't give him the fuel to break through to get to cruising altitude. And that reality must be there for all of us, no matter where you are on the hierarchy. Even if today you were to win lotto and have 100 million rand, you've gotten to a place in life which is unexpected. You don't know how people with 100 million rand live. What do they do? What decisions do they make? What's important, not important? Like how do I live with a lifetime worth of money? And which is why 94% of people who win the lottery lose it all. That's why shows like I Blew It are popular. Because you suddenly take someone from one plane and teleport them to another, and it's unknown to them. How do I live in a world where I have 500,000 rand in my bank when I'm living off, the average lady who works at Checkers or who earns 5,000. So that lady wins lotto. She's now in a totally different world and must deal with that. She must suddenly deal with not having to queue at a bank and being told you have a banker. So it takes a lot of energy and fuel to move a class. And it takes a lot to stay there. And that's the part we also don't discuss, right? That it's not easy thing to stay in the middle class. One bad decision away of going back to your rural areas, right? So all these things are never discussed because we assume we're all the same, and in essence we're not. So your kids could all be going to St. Stithians, right? But are your kids the same as other kids? And if you are the Steve's parents and taking your kids to St. Stithians, you have to be blunt. You have to say, this is what your school costs. This is what mom and dad earn.
This is the point that I'm going to challenge you on, though. This is the point that I'm going to maybe not challenge you on, but when does a kid get a chance to be a kid?
It's okay to challenge the guest, Ursh. It's not offensive. Relax.
Correct. I think also that's a luxury. It's a luxury for people who live in a different class. If you are in a class where you're fighting for your place in the sun, you don't have that luxury. And that's the reality. And unfortunately, we don't communicate that reality. A kid who's on scholarship at Michael House, you have to be very blunt to your child that my boy, my girl, if you are at St. Anne's, this is your shot. Me as your mom and dad, what we can do is this school around the corner. Anything else is outside, no matter how hard. Even if I were to rob a bank, I can't do this. And you as a child need to know that. And I think it doesn't rob you of your childhood. It just makes you more informed. And this is the thing we take back from children. Children don't know everything we know. They only know what we teach them. So my children only know what I've taught them and exposed them to. And if I expose them to the realities of life, it doesn't take away from the joys of being children. It's not mutually exclusive. So knowing your reality does not mean you can't enjoy your life, right? It actually, to some degree, means you actually can, because you now know your realistic limitations. Whereas a kid who doesn't know the reality, dad loses the job, suddenly we must move schools, suddenly we must move neighborhoods, has a more traumatic experience. And that could actually ruin them. Whereas if you're honest, my boy, my girl, you're here on scholarship. This is mom and dad's limitations. We love you. We want to give you the best shot. This is the reality of the earth. And once they have that picture, and that's the picture they understand, they know how to enjoy their lives and have fun and live. But they now know also the realities that they're living in, which equips them far more on their behavior. And I also think you meet someone who's 18 or 19 and you say to them, you're young, live your life. It's actually my view, personal view. It's irresponsible because at 18 or 19, you can make a decision that lands you in jail. So we've got to also say, you have to have some sense of responsibility. You are a grown-up now, right? You can't be 16 and dating a white girl and then spending your time alone in her house and hope that one day nothing happens. You have to know if you make mistakes, there's going to be consequences to that. If she wakes up tomorrow and says, no, we went together and this guy misbehaved and sexually assaulted me, the consequences of that, you're 16. So we can't say to you just because you're young, right? We have to actually give you the tools to be your best. And the more we deprive our children, especially of the realities of our lives, the harder it is. Because we have a sense of shame and pride. Our house is small, but we're sending our kids to St. John's. Well, if you have the right friends in the right environment, your size of your house doesn't matter. You are saying to your children, I'm giving you the best shot. Right? Go ahead and use that best shot.
But you know what I worry about with regards to that? I did have a friend, somebody that I knew, who was on a bursary to, I think it's St. David's, one of the fancy schools. St. David's, one of
Saints.
those. Yeah, one of the Saints. You know the Saints. Yeah. Went to one of the Saints, but he was on a rugby bursary. And worse, he was coming from like rural outside of the country. I won't even say the country because somebody could like pick up the story. I already said the school name at that time.
But you're not sure. We just said
it's one of the Saints. But okay, comes on a bursary scholarship, rugby, from out of the country. And I mentioned out of the country because he was coming from the village. And you understand, village South Africa versus village Malawi is very different. You know what I mean? So this person was really like, it was a hop and a skip and a jump. But this person has done very well for themselves right now. But I see how they're traumatized. Their whole, mind thinking everything surrounds themselves around not losing this class that they've made it to, and gaining more, steam in a specific class. And it breaks my heart when I have a chat with him because he doesn't see how far he's come, right? And I find that often when people, I'll tell you with myself. So I went to government school throughout, and then when I got to grade 9, I went to a private school. And throughout government school, I didn't really, because I was in primary, I didn't really see a social classing or whatever. It was just like, oh, whatever. But when I got to this private school now, there was such a big jump. Because I remember there was this other kid when schools closed, a helicopter will land on the field to come pick him up.
Wow.
There was another one where it was like a line of the X5, and I didn't go to like a very fancy private school. It was an okay private school. A line near the X5 and bodyguards come pick up the one kid. And you're just like, now you realize, now I look at my own dad like, you see,
this is why you must have pragmatic conversations with your children.
But okay, so firstly, that was the first time I was exposed to classing as an individual. The first time really seeing what classing is. Like, oh, there's rich.
Yeah, because you weren't at the top anymore. Where you were coming from, you were probably at the top of that class structure.
Maybe not top, but I was part of the average. I was just,
I like that because you're saying we are noticing because
you are now.
You are now. True.
They probably were other kids
exactly who saw you and saying, "Oh my God, there are people who come with polony to school." Right?
You're right. True. Actually, okay. Yes, perhaps. Yeah, I would have never said the top, but yes, I hear you. There were other kids like, okay, fine. Yeah, because they did call me cheese girl.
My point exactly.
Now that I think about it.
Yeah, my point exactly.
So fine. But just to explain that was the first time where I was like, damn, there's real money out there and there's real rich kids. And that was the first time I was seeing classing. But it definitely did like spark a new like motivation in me that I didn't have before, And although I think it was good that I had duality in the sense that I had seen that, okay, we're not terrible, but we're not that. And then, but it also made me like have this newfound like, I need to work hard. I never ever thought about like making money. And it was okay for me because I'm now towards the end of high school. I'm about to step into varsity, and it's okay for me to start thinking like that. But I worry about instilling this thing in your child who you're sending to one of the saints, off a bursary or off your, your very last cents as a parent, putting them in that position where for 12 years they're constantly reminded that they're not of a certain standing, social standing, and what it can do for their self-esteem. Do you get what I'm saying, guys?
First, 2 points. First point is, we're not entitled to life without trauma. No one is entitled to that. I've even said that to my
children.
No one is entitled to that. I say that to my children as well. I tell them, I will do things that will traumatize you. As your dad who loves you, there are things I'm going to do that I think are right that will hurt you, and you will think about them at 45. I'm sorry. I'm sorry now, right? The second part to that, I think, which is more important, is there are two different conversations. There's the pragmatic conversation of circumstance, then the real conversation of identity. You are not less loved because you are on bursary. You are not less valuable because you are on bursary. You are not less of a person because they are white kids and they are black kids and they don't sit together. No. My child's identity is predicated on me ensuring their character is sound.
I like
right? And I need to give them that confidence. That's my job as their father.
I like
I need to make sure they understand they are loved, they are safe, even if we're sharing a slice of bread. We, the 4 of us, 5 of us, 8 of us in this house, love each other. We have your back. Everyone else in the world may hate you, but when you come home, this is the safest place. Whenever you feel like something is not great for you, know that when you walk into that gate, that door, this one room, this is the best place for you because you're loved. Now, if you don't have that conversation and then you send your kid to those environments, then you are challenging them, which is irresponsible.
Do you know? Yeah.
Right. So the responsibility is the identity and the confidence of your child is your job as a parent. And then giving them the tools to advance is also your job, but is predicated on the fact that their foundation is sound. And I think we those two discussions are very different. And we must really work on the first one. Because the imposter syndrome happens because you feel like you shouldn't be here.